Our speaker this evening is David Rowe. He's a Provo boy, but when he got into education, educational administration, he got moved to Springville, and from Springville he's been promoted. He is now the District Director of Elementary Education for Nebo School District. We asked the superintendent if he could come, and in fact he asked us if he or somebody could come. He wanted to talk to us about the growth, and of course we're going to hear a little encouragement to vote for this bond that's coming up, I'm sure. But when he couldn't make it, he's out of town. He passed this to Dave. And we have a personal acquaintance with Dave. He married our niece. And she married well, and so did he. Anyway, we're glad to have Dave here. So we'll turn it over to you, Dave. Thank you.
Thank you, Clyde. I'm honored to be here. It's quite the privilege to speak to the Kiwanis of Spanish Fork. This is an honor, and especially I recognize the fact that you have done much good for the students of this district over the years. Sounds like over the decades, right? For a long time. That's amazing. That is amazing. We do appreciate it. Obviously, our passion as educators is to help children, and so we just thank you again. As Clyde said, I am here to explain to you the reason why the school board for Nebo School District has proposed a bond and is putting the bond on the ballot so we can build some more schools in our district. All of this information that you're holding actually is on Nebo School District's website. So if you go to the main page, right there in the middle will be a great big yellow banner talking about the bond. There actually might be some information about the fire that's much more pressing, but if you go down a little bit, it will be right there. All of these resources, including this PowerPoint, are provided on that main page. When you click on that banner, you can go in and you can get this information. The board is excited, especially to propose this bond because we're growing, and the biggest thing is this will not create a tax increase for anybody in Nebo School District, and I'll explain that, but that's why we're so excited about this, and I'll go into it. So now the nature of what the board, or what I can say as an employee when I'm on contract time or on district property or using district emails or resources, I cannot promote the bond. I can only share the information. There are private groups that are pushing that. One is called the Friends of Nebo. They've sent with me a stack of papers on the back of this table. If you want to get a hold of them, that is it. The information's on there. You can contact them, and then they can provide you with signs or with information that you can push out all you want. Of course, on my own time and on off of district property, I can promote the bond. I have a sign on my own lawn. So of course, and so it's kind of weird right now. I'm wondering, so what is my role? I'm not on contract time. I'm not working. I'm not on district property. So maybe I can promote this bond. So I will. As you know, the state of Utah is one of the fastest growing states in the union. In fact, depending on the time that you actually measure which state is the fastest, we sometimes are in first place. There might be some others like Nevada and Idaho, but we are in a strong first. You can tell over time we have had the trends, and as you drive around the state, you can see, right? And so that's going on. As we look at our very own state, there's growth everywhere, but most of our growth is in Utah County. You know that, you feel that, you see that, all the way from what they call Point of the Mountain, Silicon Slopes, thank you very much. Silicon Slopes all the way down here, we are growing. In fact, there was a study done by the state of Utah projecting that in a few decades, our population here in Utah Valley will surpass that of Salt Lake Valley. And so I know that's not good news for some of us that live here. For those who like growth, that is wonderful news. For school districts, we're grateful to have the opportunity to serve the children that will be coming with that growth, but we have to prepare for it as they come. So in Utah County, Nebo School District is one of the fastest growing districts. Alpine, of course, is growing. That's Orem all the way up to the point of the mountain, all the way out to Eagle Mountain and down to Saratoga. Provo is the slowest of the three because they're landlocked. Nebo obviously is not landlocked. We are growing. And Spanish Fork is a booming city. Progress is your middle name, right? And that's a wonderful thing, and people come because they love the city.
May I point out that in Utah, especially Utah County, our growth is more highly skewed towards school-age children also.
Good point.
So,
Good point.
like in Florida, it's growing, but that's old people retiring.
Yes. Yes. So that proposes, or excuse me, that introduces to our communities not necessarily a problem, but we have growth here. We have more students, and we can only fit so many in the buildings that we have already. Currently, as you can see, starting in 1998, our population has continued to grow. We are now at 32,820 some odd. When this slide was created, it was 826. And projected growth continues at the same trajectory. And so we know that in time, we are going to continue to expand as we have done traditionally. There are three ways that we can handle growth in our schools. The first is to bond and build buildings. The second is to build and put portable buildings, classrooms, on school properties. The last, of course, is to increase the number of students that we put inside those classrooms. And those are the options that we face. Many people ask me later on in the presentation, so what happens if the bond doesn't pass? Well, what happens is those last two. Yeah, 2 and 3. So, and that's the reality of it. That's just how we've done it. Now, I need to mention the Nebo School District is a very fiscally conservative school district, and we pride ourselves on that. We do a really good job. We don't take chances. We don't gamble on things. And when we go to build a building, we build them well so that they last a long time, but we wait until we have the students to put the buildings in. We never want to build a building on projections and then trends change and we don't have the students to put in there, right? We are always making sure the students are there. So often when you see portables at schools, it means that those schools are building and growing larger and larger, and we're watching to see if we have enough to justify a new building. And that's what happens. And then when that takes place, then we're able to build, move those kids out of the portables and put them in a beautiful new building. So that's really what we do. Now, as we were facing this, as we were looking ahead and seeing the growth, as we always anticipate and wondering if we need to put buildings and where we need to put buildings, we sent out a survey to the communities in Nebo School District, and we got a lot of response back. We sent it out a couple of times, and we were in the thousands of responses from this. And the majority of the responses, when we compiled them, came down to 3 things, 3 requests, 3 things that were on people's minds. The first is the parents really wanted straight alignment patterns, and I'll talk more in detail what that is, but in short what that means is once students leave elementary school, the group of students they go to the middle and junior high schools with, they stay with all the way up through high school. Okay, currently there are certain junior highs that those populations when they go to high school they split. Some of them go in one direction. We know that, don't we, Karen? And another part goes to another. My students currently go to Mapleton Junior High, and they say goodbye to their friends after 9th grade. They go to Maple Mountain High School, and my kids themselves go with a smaller group of kids to Springville. And anyway, so that's what straight alignment patterns would avoid. The other is they like the middle school model that we used to have over a decade ago, where we had 4 levels: elementary, middle, junior, and then high school. A few years back, we removed the middle schools because financially it made more sense to the district. Now you're going to see, as we've grown and as the number of schools have, it's aligned back to where financially by taking the next step we can build fewer schools and then reintroduce the middle school model. And middle school is 6th and 7th grade, junior high is 8th and 9th grade, and then high schools will remain 10th through 12th, and then elementary will go back to K through 5. And so you'll see how that works. Now, that was kind of what we were thinking was going to happen, the feedback that we were going to get. And then we got so many people who were asking in the survey and the open responses, hey, what about these 3 old high schools in Payson, Spanish Fork, and Springville? What can we do about those? Is there any way we can rebuild those? They're getting older and older, and we would like to see newer buildings. And so we thought, well, that's great. We've thought about the possibility of building those schools, and we kind of had it in our minds out a little bit into the future. But as we started crunching the numbers, we realized that we could actually combine all of those into one bond and still not raise taxes. So that's why we did what we did. So all the communities could get something on this bond. And that's been a great thing. All the communities have been grateful for that. So in response to the survey, we have decided, or we're proposing that if we go to the middle school model, what would happen is we would take 6th grade out of all the elementary schools, and that would free up space for future growth. So we wouldn't have to build elementary schools in the near future. So we wouldn't have to worry about bonding for elementary. It would also remove 7th grade students from the junior high, bringing them to the middle school, which would free up space in the junior high schools, thus avoiding the need to build any junior highs in the near future, okay, because now there's space to grow. And the last is, once the new middle schools are created, then we could bring about those straight alignment patterns. And I'll show you a visual, it makes more sense. Currently, our boundary alignment is as such. We have 5 high schools, and then we have 7 junior highs. And of course, you can't put 7 junior highs directly into 5 high schools, so you have to do some splitting. What we would propose is reducing the number of junior high schools, and you could do that because you're reducing the number of students, to 5, so that we're 5 high schools, 5 junior highs, and then we would take Diamond Fork Junior High and make it Diamond Fork Middle School. We would take Mount Nebo Junior High in Payson and make it Mount Nebo Middle School, and then we would only have to build 1, 2, 3 middle schools, and then we would have our direct alignment patterns already established. So that was good news as well. This is really what people are excited about, including my own children, who say goodbye to all of their friends that go to Maple Mountain High School. They remain friends, but it really makes that rivalry strong, you know. Okay, so also people have asked, so why would you rebuild the old high schools? Part of that is just like, yeah, they're just getting older, and so you have to put more money into it. You have to upgrade the heating, ventilating, cooling systems get old. We've had to put a lot of money, and that's not cheap when you go into a high school. And so we've been doing that, and it's kind of like your old cars. You start to calculate, how long do I drive this thing before I'm putting too much money into it, right? Which is my life all the way, completely. And so anyway, that's one of the rationale. They are now they're getting to the end of their use their years of service. The other is, by building these new high schools with an increased capacity, we wouldn't have to bring in the portables. Parents don't like portables. Teachers aren't that keen with portables. It's nice to have everybody in the same building. And with the security measures and the desire to increase those in our day and age, that's also very appealing. The new designs of the high schools make it to where we can contain most of those students. These old high schools have a lot of outbuildings, and for security purposes, that's a difficult challenge when you have a lot of different places. The new buildings, one example of how you can increase security is there's lock systems where you can lock and unlock doors at certain times of the day, or if there was an emergency, you can, with the flip of a switch, lock all doors electronically, just like that. So there's some neat things that you can add into these new buildings. The other is, obviously the new buildings are more technology friendly. You can build those things into the schools, and that, as you know, is a big part of education these days. And then, of course, the new high schools would be current with current seismic requirements for building codes, right? Our old high schools were current when they were built as well, but it's just peace of mind knowing that the new ones would be. Okay, so in short, what the school board proposes is the construction of 3 new middle schools and the rebuild of the 3 high schools. As you can see, the project locations are distributed throughout Nebo School District. This bond really does benefit so many of our communities in so many ways. We feel this was a great thing to do all at once. You can see here, we just completed Apple Valley Elementary in Santaquin, so that's the 3rd elementary school in Santaquin. Valley View Middle School would be the first middle school we would build. We would start, if the bond passed, we would start that the beginning of 2019. We would start breaking dirt as soon as we possibly could. That is in Salem, right here, right below Woodland Hills, on Woodland Hills Drive, just due east of Foothills Elementary, if you know where that is. That would be Salem's middle school. The next one would be Maple Grove Middle School. That would service the Maple Mountain area, that catchment area. We're currently looking to see what the best place is. We have property just north of Maple Mountain High School, but we're looking for other places in Mapleton too, just trying to get the right fit, best thing that we can do. So that would be the second one built. The third would be Spring Canyon Middle School. That would be in Springville. We have property already. If you know where the new Smiths is, there's an elementary school just behind it. Due east a couple of blocks, there's a big piece of property we purchased from Rulon Francis, and that's where we will put that middle school. So, and then the 3 high schools we would build on site where the current old high schools are. And we've worked with our architects, and they've told us it's doable, and they've shown us some models of how that could be done. So we're excited at the prospect of where all of these schools are. In terms of the order of the rebuild of the new high schools, we don't know. We're not sure. We would have to dig a little deeper and find out if there were some compelling reasons why we would need to start with one before another, but that's yet to be seen, and then those decisions will be made as soon as we can see if the bond passes. So this is the same schedule. The first project would start spring of 2019 if the bond passes. The last one would be completed and opened for business the fall of 2026. So those 6 schools, in that amount of time, in what, 8 years, we'd be done. Almost, yeah, about 8 years, about 7 years, we would be done with all of those. You can see the price tags on all of those, this projected based on what we know now for building costs. That comes to a total of $345 million. Our bond, however, is going to be for $298 million because the district has been putting aside capital money that we receive from the state for the construction or the maintenance of buildings. We've been socking away a little bit at a time, building up a savings so that we can put $47 million towards the construction of these buildings, saving our taxpayers a little bit on that. This is exciting. It's exciting for us. So we're proposing that a bond for $298 million be placed on the ballot. The election day is November 6th, but I'll tell you, as you know, it's going to be a mail-in ballot for all registered voters. So here in the middle of October, if you're registered, you'll be getting the ballot in the mail. You can turn around that same day and you can cast your vote long before November 6th. So the big question is, how will this impact my property tax? And the quick answer is, it will not increase it. You will not see an increase whatsoever in your taxes because of the bond. If by chance you happen to see an increase in the property taxes, typically what is that for? We just saw an increase recently. What happened?
Well, property value.
Yeah, that's typically, and that has nothing to do with the bond, nothing at all. So it's an amazing thing. That's why when we said, hey, gosh, we can add the high schools onto this and not increase taxes, we thought, let's do this. Then we can get rolling on all of these things and not wait. One of the reasons why we can continue to do this without raising taxes is because we're growing, and we have more people, more businesses that are able to increase our tax base and put into the pot. The other is existing bonds that we're currently paying on for the schools that are already in our communities have been structured in such a way that we're able to have a very low, they've been structured to be issued, and I'll show you a graphic that helps you understand that. They've been structured in such a way that we're able to continue making payments on this without increasing taxes. It's pretty neat how we've done that. And then the last one is the $298 million will be borrowed in small amounts. So we don't borrow and bond for all $298. We start with that first middle school, bond for that, and then the payments start on that. But we don't borrow or bond for the money, borrow that money until we actually start building it. And that's why we're able to stagger it and spread it out. This is a visual for you that shows you what our current debt is for bonds. As you can see, we will be paying our debt until 2032 if we do not bond anymore. That's when we will stop making payments. Okay? This space here above the bars is the space that we can add debt with future bonds if we pass this bond without raising taxes if we can keep it under this dark line. And this dark line is on the increase because our tax base is growing. So does that make sense? So we have space. So really visually, we have all of this space for future bonds to put into place without raising taxes, which is why we're able to do that, because we can stagger it, and then you can see we're paying off bonds as we go from the past, leaving more space so we can fit more in. Okay, now, as you know, in your experience, as you've gone and looked at the ballots, sometimes the language is a little tricky. Sometimes it says, do you support a proposal that's opposing something? And so it's sometimes you have to think through this one a little bit. The ballot for the bond will say a property tax sufficient to pay debt service will be required. And on another part, it says no property tax rate increase as a result of the bond. So know that, and just know that, simply put, if you vote yes, it means you support the construction of the 6 new schools. You support the bond. If you vote no, it means that you don't want it. Sometimes because you have to, it's reversed because of the way the language is read. That's how this is going. Does that make sense?
So you're saying vote yes?
That's what I'm saying. Vote yes. That's exactly what I'm saying. Let's see, there are a few points up here. No tax rate, the number of years. It will not increase taxes. It will just simply extend our payments out. It's just like if you sell your car, as soon as you pay it off and you get another car, but it's the same car payment, right? You just simply extend those payments. Couple of things. What other facts regarding the bond should I know? One is that significant tax decreases couldn't be realized until 2032. And we know with the growth that's going on, it wouldn't be realistic to wait to build until then, right?
So even if we say no, the current bonds we have, we're going to pay out in 2032.
That's another way of saying it. Yep, exactly. We can accommodate for it. We said that as well. But the other thing is, we can't use other monies. Well, excuse me. We can't bond and then use that money for anything else but construction for the buildings. Some people say, well, can't you use it to increase teacher salaries or to improve certain other areas? We can't. We can only use it to improve what we've got or to build new. And that's what we've done in the past. Schools,
Not
buildings,
administrative buildings, but schools.
brick and mortar. We could bond for administrative buildings, but that would be explicit on a ballot. You would know what you were voting for. Absolutely. So in summary, here's what we went to. If you vote yes, it means you want those buildings to be built. If you vote no, then you don't, okay? And it's the 6 buildings. We want to send this information to everybody. We want them to be informed. We're having meetings in all the communities. We've already had one at Salem Hills High School. The next community meeting where anybody is welcome to attend is September 25th at Maple Mountain High. There's another on the 26th at Payson, Springville, and then this area is October 4th at Spanish Fork High School. Here's the thing that we were talking about earlier. The timing of this is quite critical because on the 16th of October, all the ballots will be mailed out to those who are registered to vote. The last day to register to vote is October 9th if you want to go online and register. So if you know people that want to vote, that want to participate, they need to know this information right here. We've got to get them out so that they can register to vote. We want everybody to vote. Of course we do. And so, but this is the way it's going to be done now. The last date to postmark mail-in ballots is November 5th. The actual election day is November 6th. And from what I understand, there won't be the polling stations that we're used to in the past. There will be fewer locations you can go in, but I think you go in with the ballot you received in the mail to drop it off. That's my understanding. Am I correct on that one? Does anybody know that? Okay. So anyway, it's critical that if people want to vote, they've got to be able to register on these timelines. That little card, that postcard side, has that dates on it, and that large sheet has the dates on it as well on the back side on the bottom right, I think in a dark blue. I told you about the website. It just has that big banner. Just click anywhere on that banner and it will give you all the information you have in your hands as well as the PowerPoint. And I've talked to you about this. Of course, we want this. We're hoping that people can come out and vote and support the students just like people did when we were younger. They supported the schools that we attended in, and to give the future to the students of Nebo School District. The last thing I wanted to do is show you a quick video that's on the website.
This is the Taylor family, and like you, they live in the Nebo School District. Over the next 10 years, Nebo will grow by more than 4,000 additional students. With this much growth, it's easy to see how our schools are getting more crowded every year. So how does this affect the Taylor family? Well, the kids are worried about their schools being too crowded. Mom and Dad Taylor are concerned about safety issues with aging high schools such as Payson High, Spanish Fork High, and Springville High. In addition, Grandma and Grandpa are worried about how the bond will affect their property taxes. Over the past year, Nebo asked for parent and community input through surveys. Parental input strongly supported 1. Return to the middle school model, 2. Create straight alignment patterns, and 3. Rebuild the 3 aging high schools. How will this help with student growth? Building 3 new middle schools will take 6th grade students out of the elementary schools and 7th grade students out of the junior high schools. This plan will reduce the need to build elementary and junior high schools in the near future. Our current alignment pattern is split between schools. Once the new middle schools are created, we'll be able to implement a straight alignment pattern. This concept will have 6th and 7th grade students together in middle schools, and 8th and 9th grade students together in junior high. To help with the increasing number of students, provide the middle school model with straight alignment patterns, and to rebuild older schools, a bond will be on the November 6, 2018 ballot for Nebo District. This will help build 3 new middle schools and rebuild the 3 existing older high schools. How will this bond impact the Taylor family's property taxes? The bond will do a number of things, but the one thing it won't do is raise the property tax rate. How is this possible? Not only are there more taxpayers and more businesses in the area, but Nebo also has a AAA rating, which is compared to Mr. Taylor having a personal credit score of 850. Nebo carefully structured previous bonds to allow no tax rate increase for new bonds. Therefore, taxpayers will see no increase in the yearly property tax from Nebo with the new bond unless their property values increase. The 2018 bond for $298 million will provide 6 schools, 3 new middle schools, and the rebuild of the 3 older high schools. The bond funds can be used for building construction and not for employee salaries. The Taylor family and many others love Nebo School District because of its safe environment and quality of education from excellent teachers. With a 2018 bond, Nebo will continue to build a successful future for all residents. With less crowded schools, the middle school straight alignment pattern, and the rebuild of older high schools, there are greater opportunities for Nebo students. The Taylor family and you can vote in one of three ways: mail-in voting, early voting, or simply walk into a polling location on November 6th and cast your vote. Thank you for your time, and happy voting!
Now I'll open it up to questions. I'll repeat them if you ask them so that we get them on the video. Good question. So the question was, with the rebuild of the new high schools, will we be able to build them so that they can house more students? Yes, the answer is yes. They will have the ability to do that, and we'll be able to expand on that as well.
By how many?
I couldn't tell you. But it would allow us to grow without building more for a little bit. We don't love the whole giant high school idea either. We like to keep it within a reasonable size. I apologize, I couldn't give you a number, estimate on that. And that's always based on growth, and we can't project what we have currently. We feel pretty confident that our boundaries are pretty distributed evenly, so that the capacity of the high schools can handle growth for a little while. We feel confident in that, but we can't predict what's coming. And yes, if that came to that point, there would be a cap. We would say it's time to build, absolutely. And of course, we would have to put out another bond for that. The question is, when you rebuild a new high school, are they remodeling it, upgrading it, all of that, or are you going to build a completely new school? The answer is we would rebuild a completely new school. Not rebuild, we would build a brand new school, and we would do it on site, and then we would raise the old schools, and off they go. Yes, so the question was, for sporting events, would the construction maybe take up some of the green space used for some of those or some of the facilities? Possibly, yeah. We would have to get creative on that. I know that the architects are trying to figure out ways where they could maybe preserve some of that on site. But yeah, those are all the things that we would have to address if the bond passed, and then we would get really serious about asking those and designing that. Yeah, I mean, you can see it's a complicated affair, building a new building on site with the old one still in use. Good question. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You bet, Doug.
Stay around here. I've got
Okay.
a certificate.
Oh,
Thank you so much for your work in the Nebo School District and to the community, and for coming to our club to tell us about these important issues.
my honor. Thank you
And
very
in front
much.
of Channel 17, I would encourage all the listeners to vote for this bond issue.
Thank you. Appreciate that.